Because like when you like from a stranger, then I think I make a mistake.
Assalamu alaikum. This is Islamic Arts and Heritage Program. My name's Adam. I'm not here to waste your time. We're just going to go cracking on. We've got two special guests. Akib, who's nodding his head right now. Akib is based in Leicester, and Tazim, also based in Leicester. Two award-winning artists, I must add. Akib's based in Churchgate Artist Studios, and Tazim's based in Student Ame. First of all, let me ask you about Ramadan. How's Ramadan been for you guys? Akib.
Subhanallah, Ramzan.
Yeah.
Alhamdulillah. Do you know what? I said this year Ramzan, I've seen it's been better than last year's. So, Alhamdulillah, do you know what? I've been quite happy that I did more than last year. So far, so good, I would say.
Tazim, how's the timekeeping? How's the shift between, the two, the summer times and the winter? How's that been?
It's been nice. The weather's getting better.
Yeah.
And the days are getting longer, so that's been really lovely. Ramadan, I think this year for me has been very different. Lots going on personally, so it's not been as organized as I usually would have been. But alhamdulillah, it's okay.
Oh, good stuff. Now, we're going to do something different.
Okay.
If obviously we know each other quite well.
Do we?
Yeah.
I don't know about that.
If Tazim could describe what the type of work Akib does, yeah, and then let's just try this. Go on.
Okay, I'll try.
Yeah.
He does Islamic-inspired geometric design.
Yeah.
Heavily influenced by Morocco, I would say. He's even wearing Moroccan attire. And his work has lots of elements like lights, and it's sculptural. It's the kind of thing that I always think about stealing. I love everything Moroccan.
You're not the only one. Everyone that walks into my studio, like, yeah, I think I'll be taking this home with me right now. Like,
I
sure.
have a few pieces that I would love to.
Maybe we can talk about that stolen piece at one stage, and we can
Damaged pieces.
Damaged
stolen
pieces. Okay. Let's. How about your turn now? How would you describe Tazim's work?
Honestly, Tazim's work, botanical, floral patterns, paintings, inspiration. I can see that in her work. It's not just one thing, but it's a lot of pattern as well. Natural floral patterns, geometric patterns, and it's quite colourful. It's abstract-y. And one thing I love about her work is experimentation. Don't shy away from trying something different, rather than some people would just say something the same, but she tries pushes the boundary on different mediums. That's why I kind of get attracted to her work. Like, wow, okay, this is amazing. And vases as well, are favorite things. Well, we try to get it, with the collaboration, do as straight as possible.
Yeah, alhamdulillah, I've seen you guys. Obviously, we work together almost on a daily basis. We see each other often, sometimes.
Sometimes we see too much.
Like, how did your journey come about? How did you know? Obviously, your handles with the artist, it kind of like gives an indication of where you come from, sort of. If you can just quickly tell us.
So I literally found my art practice while studying architecture, and I knew my second year architecture. I'm like, I want to go into arts, and that's why I made the decision to kind of, although studying architecture, carried on, but I just kind of focus on the art side of architecture. The inspiration would be Alhambra. The patterns and art and architecture kind of just blended so well, and I said to myself, okay, the architectural artist, and that's literally been 2014, I would say.
That's good.
I bet it's fantastic. How did you, sort of like get into arts? Yeah, what was your first kind of like flame?
So I've always been creative.
Yeah.
As a child, we travelled a lot because my father used to work in the airlines. So when we went to new places, we would go to galleries and museums and things like that. And then my parents always encouraged us to be creative, so they would buy us, art material and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
And then when life happens, you don't do as much because you're 9 to 5 working and stuff. But about 10 years ago, I started keeping a sketchbook, and it just started from there. And then I went on lots of courses at Attenborough Arts and Adult Education. And it was more textile inspired initially. I studied textiles and then moved on to art. And then when I got my studio, which was about 4.5 years ago, I started experimenting more and painting on canvas and board and paper and just trying different things. And having a space allowed me to go bigger.
How did you know that there was like these type of spaces available, and how did it all come about? What made you jump to get in a studio space?
I like looking at artwork, and when I joined Instagram, I followed a lot of artists, a lot of the local artists who were based at Studio Nami, and I was stalking them basically. And when a space came up, I just thought I'll go and have a look at it. I didn't have a plan in mind of becoming a full-time artist or anything like that, but I just wanted space because my room was getting into a mess. If things were drying, then it was everywhere. And I was slowly creeping into like the dining room and a bit in the sitting room and stuff. So at that point, I decided I needed a space.
How about yourself, Akib?
I think it's probably been 4.5 years since you moved into a space.
It was Akib's old studio.
Yeah, that's my old studio. And I remember that was actually pretty. I love that space. Started off, but only thing I couldn't get the machines in. That's why I had to like find a space with some sort of heating element. And when Churchgate opened up, that was actually pretty like, yeah, that's I'm taking the space. But I can't believe it's been 4.5 years since I've actually been in Churchgate now.
So how did you?
So I started in my bedroom, I would say, but it was getting cramped. It was dirty work, especially woodworking. You have a lot of fumes. But I'm glad I had the attic, so everything was kind of quite easy. All the fumes going out the window to the extractors. But yeah, I think started in my bedroom. I bought a laser cutter, a mini small laser cutter, and then just kind of experimenting. And first 4 or 5 years was kind of not planned. I had a vision in my head, but it was more like, I have no idea what I'm doing. But the best thing I did in that time was kept connection with a couple of architects I knew, and just to ask for guidance. And also then I met you, Adam, going around for your solo exhibition, going out leaflets on my street. And I think, hey, Concha, let me go have a chat with him. And they say, yeah, I've got a studio name, I'm an artist. And, when he introduced himself, like, hey, Chala, I need to check this place out. So I just literally, my intention come to exhibition was like to see the space, if I can vision myself.
Not your art.
Not your art, Now that Adam's art's there, like, but no, it was more kind of go see the space as well. Because at the time, I thought it was more of a craft. I wasn't thinking like an artist. I wasn't thinking as an artist, it's an art, because no one told me it's an art. I just kind of started, no guidance. So yeah, when I got my that space in Studio Name, when I got to meet a lot of the artists, like yourself, Stu, Fuka, Tim, Lucy, Lars, and just having the conversation, the space with an artist, now I started thinking like an artist. And I kind of just opened like, okay, my work could be just more than just a craft, or it could be more than just a deco piece. It could be an artwork. I don't know what the difference is, but that's what I was told. And I just went with that. And just whatever opportunities came my way, open call, open exhibitions for New Walk Museum and things I just applied for. And surprisingly, I won. And I'm like, okay, now that just gives you even a bigger boost. Like, yeah, my work is something. Someone likes it. At least I'm getting prizes for it. So yeah, I think it's been started in my bedroom, and it's been a long journey, man.
Your last project was, let's talk about this, because Akib did...
I think it was the biggest, most stressful project I've ever done in my life.
Just for the listeners and the viewers, Akib did Noor Tower for Light of Leicester. One of the most successful pieces, I would say. Alhamdulillah, it was a really nice experience, and it was engaging for everybody, friends and family, to get this experience out. So talk us about the process of making Noor Tower.
Ooh. So that project, I would say, initially started in December of 2023. In terms of, that's when I went to 2022 or 2023. I don't remember when. But he got married in Morocco, and then we just stayed for a couple of weeks, going around, traveling, and everywhere I went, they have minarets, and during the daytime it's just minarets, stonework with a lot of geometric patterns and things like that. It looks beautiful, but when you're going at night time, it's completely different. They have like hint of light everywhere, shining onto part of the tower. So I don't know, back of my head, it was like, I really kind of, it stayed in my head. So when I came back, literally got into a studio and I started just doing a little mock-up of a 3D model of a mini tower, if you've seen in my studio. And that's about it. And I'm like, okay, let me make a mini Noor tower. I didn't even call it tower or anything. I just kind of light up sculpture kind of tower, sitting there, made it, alhamdulillah, enjoyed it, and I put it on the shelf for like 8 months. Didn't look at it. Until Outreach, they had an open call for a light up sculpture or piece for Light Up Leicester Festival. And I thought, okay, do you know what? The Noor Tower could be a piece that could apply. Only thing is that the scale was it's probably I've never done to that scale, because the one I made is less than 60 centimeter by 30 centimeter, and this one about to make is 2.5 meter by 1 meter by 1 meter. So the scale is massive. Everything is just in my head. I'm like, yeah, I can do this. So, but I've got good CAD skills, I would say, in terms of designing. So I take off all the guesswork. I don't have to worry about, I have to get this, I have to get that, do all the 3D modeling up, put all the material in, all the size, dimension, and do a 3D model. So that way, at least, okay, I need to cut this size, I need to make this, I need to 3D print, I need to do this, and just attach it together. Well, theoretically, that's what I thought anyway. Yeah, that's what I thought. But not for large scale, no way. At least you give yourself at least 2 weeks. But yeah, it was like started around 6 weeks ago, start making it. When I won, they said confirmed that, yeah, I won actually the open call, and my work was chosen for Light Up Leicester. So I said, yeah, fair enough, let's go. And that's it. Started 6 weeks ago. But while starting that as well, it started with delays. Material came first, damaged. Second batch that came, they sent me the wrong size. So that delayed me by 13 days, and that kind of added to everything. And now I've got a deadline to meet. I've got a lot of things that's online for me, because I've not done any other work apart from this for the next, preparation been about 2 months now. So 2 months of preparation to get this up and running, and everything's not going my way. Ordered the lights. When I tried the lights, alhamdulillah, worked for the first 5 days. I kept it on. When I try it on for the final installation, half the lights stopped working.
Considering these lights come from China, it's not something like you can just get from Amazon.
It's not about China. Everything more or less is made in China, but these lights are specific. The one I ordered, you can't get them anywhere. They only can get it from that one company, because I wanted the one that's actually 360 glow, and all other ones so bulky and require so much power consumption. So I want to keep the power consumption as minimal as possible. So these lights run off just power bank. For literally, I ran one of the lights for 28 hours on a power bank on a 10,000 milliamps. So I can literally have a power hub, a power station, and the whole sculpture could be portable, could be literally without any wires. But again, it goes through a lot of council. You have to go through a lot of checks and things like that, and I don't want it to kind of die during the show, so I just went with mains. But yeah, it was 8 weeks of work, 6 weeks of work, laser cutting for about almost 60 hours of laser cutting, painting, sanding, gluing, and
sleepless nights.
Sleepless nights. No, alhamdulillah, first, until the last 2 days, when everything went wrong. I actually stayed up in my studio for 2 days. Literally, everything was done in the studio. For 2 days, I stayed there just trying to fix up, get it ready. What happened was on the last day, just on the day of installation, I was about to install around 4 p.m. My studio's on the second floor. Unfortunately, there's no lift. So it's the sculpture is so big, so I have to dismantle it and bring it down. So what happened was, one guy, I don't know who he was, but blocked the fire exit. So I couldn't get anything out of out. And I tried to look for everyone, so it just wouldn't work. Like, oh, damn, 4 o'clock. So I called the council up, like, look, I can't do anything. I can't do the installation because there's no way. It's impossible for me to get all the pieces out of my studio because this guy's blocking the fire exit. I can't have access to about 40 centimeter space to get out. So they came over, they tried to look for the person individually, like, who is this guy or whoever they were. Couldn't find it. Like, they're like, okay, try to wait to do till 5 o'clock if you can. I'm like, I'm going to try my best, but I can't promise anything because it's out of my hands because someone needs to move their car. 5 o'clock comes, just about 3:05, they move their car. I'm like, yes, alhamdulillah, it's going. So I take the first panel out, and it just starts chucking it out. Somehow it just starts raining. I'm panicking. It's raining, rushing. Everything is happening. And what happened was I kind of, when I'm taking it down, the white frosted acrylic that's at the back, when I tried to maneuver, it just got caught on one of the sides. So it just kind of ripped the whole back. And without those frosted acrylic, the sculpture is just, there's no point in having a sculpture. It's just a piece of wood, I would say. And that's it. That was starting I went into panic mode, and I called my brother and then my sister. Like, yo, I can't do this. I think I'm gonna give up. Subhanallah. But then mashallah, you know what? My brother and sister came through. They came out, literally came down, and they stayed up with me all night in the studio until the next day, 2 p.m. for the installation. And we worked all night. I missed the deadline for 6 p.m. installation, but because I couldn't get anything out of the way, I couldn't just do anything. I had to fix up, so I had to re-laser cut the whole thing, the whole panel, re-glue the whole thing. Yeah, man, it's about 48 hours of no sleeping, 50 hours of no sleeping, and managed to get it up and running for just before the iftar, open iftar, first ever event. So that's another thing, because that sculpture was connecting the art with open iftar as well at the same time. So I had that pressure as well, because first open iftar is taking place, and they want to use my work as a backdrop. So I'm like, Marikia, man, so many things happening and so many things going wrong, not my way. But alhamdulillah, do you know what? It was, I would say, a learning curve. I learned so much from this in terms of I made a lot of mistakes, and now it gave me a confidence. Okay, now in future I know what I need to do, what I need to avoid, and learn so much from this. Now, if I were to make the same thing again, confidently I can make it within 2 weeks, the whole thing, because it was just when you don't know what you're doing, first time you just go with the flow. But once you know the process is quite, now I say alhamdulillah, it's easy. Now I feel like I can do even larger scale pieces. Inshallah.
Yeah, Taz, you went to the open iftar. And how was the experience? And
it was really good.
Yeah.
The weather, it was really cold that day, and it then rained, but the atmosphere was really, really nice. And just talking to people, not everyone was Muslim, and they were really interested in Ramadan and how not even water and all that kind of stuff. So it was a really good event.
Sure.
I really enjoyed it.
So I want to ask you about your last project, your last exhibition, I Bloom. Tell us something about how it came about, how you kind of blossomed into from your previous exhibition, because you did one other about 4 months before, Kaleidoscope, and then you did I Bloom. So how did it go about? And Colorscope, sorry.
So last year I became a full-time artist in January, and I had a list of things that I would have loved if I could achieve by the end of the year. To me, I thought they were quite big things, like having a solo exhibition, answering to open calls. There were lots of little things in there as well. And being at the studio means that we can use the gallery space to have solo exhibitions. And so I put a date in. I put a request in with the longest date because I was so nervous about doing an exhibition. I'd never done anything like that before. And the first one was actually the best one for me because it was where most of my learning was. And I had a lot of support. Like, you helped me put it up. There were lots of technical things that I didn't know I had to do to put an exhibition together, and the cost and everything like that. But then between that and the second one, I felt that my growth was massive. I could see my style because I'd made a lot of paintings, and I grew in confidence. I could feel that I had grown a lot.
Yeah, I think that with the exhibitions, like there's a lot of logistics that people don't realise, you know, in terms of the framing,
Yes.
the height, the position, the location, you know, like how it sits within the space, you know, like spacing the artwork out.
To fill a room as well,
Yeah.
you know, with enough pieces. And you do feel quite vulnerable because you're working in your own studio space. Of course, I do get feedback from yourselves, other artists based at the studio, Instagram. If I post something, I get feedback. But once it's up and it's open, it is quite a scary thing to do. But for me, I just love that feeling of seeing all my work up on all four walls. And yeah, I think anyone who's into art should exhibit. Yeah.
Definitely.
So I want to talk about like your transition from like Colorscope to the new style, or you know, the floral style. You know, like what was the trigger? You know, like we think that it's more you know, like fluid, organic. So you know, tell us about that transition between.
So I was doing a lot of abstract work, and it was more experiments, and it was colourful, lots of mark making. And then I went through a couple of weeks when the situation in Gaza at the time was really bad. It was just before Ramadan last year, and I just found myself painting a lot. I just felt like I had the stress and extra energy in me, and I painted a lot of flowers. And then everyone that came into the studio was like, this is amazing work, you know, you should put this into the exhibition. But I had already been working on Colorscope as an exhibition and had started putting work towards that, had framed work towards that. So then on the side, I was painting lots of flowers, lots of patterned vases and things like that. And then I had my Colorscope exhibition, and soon after I had one piece accepted at Sock Gallery in Loughborough, and that actually won a prize. And I think that moment just changed everything for me, because firstly it was outside the studio, and secondly, I didn't know they gave prizes. Like, I was so naive to the whole process.
Mm-hmm.
And when they called my name, I was like, is that my name?
I mean, obviously, we're going to talk about Islamic artists in the wider culture. But tell us about the prize. What actually, you know, like that was.
So when they were doing the prize giving, we were quite behind. I couldn't see the stage or what was being given. And then when they called my name out, I'd gone with Lucy Stevens, who's another artist, and she was like, yeah, Taz, that was your name. So I went through the crowd, got on stage, got a certificate. As I came around, they gave me this huge bottle of alcohol. And I was like, great. And all the cameras are, you know, taking pictures and stuff. So here I was with this massive bottle of alcohol. And I guess that's the thing. There's not many Muslim artists, and they're not aware of our religious values and rules and things. But it was a bit of a shock.
So, what do you guys think of Islamic arts, or you know, what do you think of the art scene for the Muslim community within Leicester? You know, I'm kind of like bridging towards Aliyah, you know, and Takhliq, and if you can tell us about, you know, like what's your experiences with your work.
I don't see thinking like I don't call myself an Islamic artist. A lot of people say my work is inspired by Islamic arts and architecture, but it's architecture in general. I could be anywhere, and if I like a building, could be the inspiration. In terms of the art scene, it's grown from when I started to now. At least we got Leah, we got Takhliq, it was nothing like that. There's no platform to kind of represent a Muslim artist. Well, they had other platforms to represent other artists, but in terms of Muslim artists or being Muslim in Islamic arts, there wasn't anything. So in Leicester, anyways. But yeah, I think it's grown, and there's a lot more interest from when I started to now. You know, these youngsters, kids, and teenagers, they want to go into Islamic arts and art, generally in art. I think before, like, back in days, it was looked down upon to be an artist. It's like I left architecture to become an artist, so that like is a massive. Everyone's just thinking, what am I doing? Why did I leave architecture to become an artist? It just couldn't.
Should have a proper job.
Should have a proper job. So right now, alhamdulillah, I see a lot of artists, especially new generation, they're into the arts. So it's growing, and I think it's good for us that at least we can support in a lot of ways. That's what I think.
I think the art scene is growing as well. Before, there weren't many visible Muslim artists that you could look up to. And with Leah, we've been able to network, which has been really nice, to meet other creatives and have events and things like that. So, yeah, I think it's a really good thing. But same as Akib, for me, I am Muslim, and I'm influenced by Islamic pattern and culture, but that's not the only thing that I'm influenced by. So I think I haven't put myself as
one
Islamic.
Thing you wanna,
I think my work could fit into contemporary art quite easily. So I'd like to focus just on mainstream art.
It's like your calligraphy as well. It's not Islamic, but you got a lot of Chinese, Japanese kind of influence as well.
Yeah, I mean, for me personally, the calligraphy I do is inspired by Japanese, designers.
But that's the thing, if someone looks at it from arts background, and they look at its calligraphy, and initially they associate, okay, it's Islamic. They wouldn't know, like, okay, it's come from, no, it's not just Islamic inspiration, but Japanese. That's, you'll get that. Sorry, cut you off.
No, I mean, that's exactly, obviously it's a good observation. Well, what's your thoughts on, the growing, the new communities, like Somalian communities, Algerian communities? How do you think we can possibly engage with that community, or have you had any sort of like feedback, maybe interactions?
Honestly, I've not really engaged. I've been just quite busy with my own work. I've been literally, I've not had any time apart from going to maybe some of the Takliq event or something, so some sort of to kind of just meet and network or have a chat. But apart from that, I've not really been out there having conversation or talking to any other communities. I wouldn't really know how to go about with that.
I mean, in terms of obviously with your work, Nurtal, you must have had a lot of feedback from that sort of.
So from that, I had over so many hundreds of people, alhamdulillah, message, and they had a good feedback. But predominantly, they want Muslims. Most, I would say, 90% would be, locals, would be non-Muslims there who visited, who gave me the feedback. And most of them, it reminded them of their holiday to somewhere in Islamic countries they've been to, and they see the pattern. Oh, is Islamic based on this? I'm like, yes, based on this, but it's just based on architecture and pattern. So it just, for them, it was a kind of almost a remembrance of remembering them on the particular holiday they went to. Feedback was amazing. I was like, wow, okay, this was quite encouraging. So in terms of people from different backgrounds, I wouldn't say I had many different people visiting. It would be more like, locals, 89% of people will be the same people, that community. So not sure about that way.
I think it would be good to see other cultures and their art, because Islam is spread across the world, and there's lots of different styles of art and patterns and things like that are maybe Turkish or Moroccan or even African countries. So all those countries do have tradition of art, but maybe the parents don't encourage their young people, or we're not seeing it. But it'll take time because the new communities focus on settling first, don't they? And they're working hard, and we're second or third generation, so I guess we've been here longer.
Yeah, I mean that's a really good point. I think that's one of the things we mapped out. That like being a second generation, third generation helps.
Yeah.
Because fundamentally, if somebody was saying, from the younger Somalian community, for example, or Algerian community, if they said, let's do some painting as opposed to working as a doctor or something,
They're going to choose.
Yeah, they're going to choose,
But
which is something more stable.
A lot of, if you look at a lot of the new generation, they are in creative field, but they're not into arts per se, but they'll be into their media, into their films and animation, vlogging, video. They're using the creativity on a different platform, in different ways. It's not just arts. So I know a lot of Somalians who are into the graphic designers. I know they're into their film production, vlogging, and things like that. So it's, I would say, art, depending how broad you want to call it art, whether you're just making to a painting or something you see visually on the wall, or something you see digital as well. You have digital artists. So many artists I know they're digital artists, not just so. They are out there, but I think it's just finding a room for them to say, okay, look, you're a digital artist. We can also exhibit your work. We'll have digital screen. Otherwise, you're just kind of eliminating a lot of the digital artists and just kind of have people who can physically show their pieces. So maybe in the future, keep in mind as well, okay, we have the physical space, and how do we get the digital artists on board? How do we showcase their work? And that could be something that to be looked at, thought about as well.
We definitely want to tap into, obviously, that community. Our Instagram is Technique Leicester. If they can, just engage, discuss. I mean, we've got a couple of events coming up under the Technique banner. The henna projects, which is coming out for professionals as well as beginners. You can look out for it online. It is at Student Name, and I think there's only 2 spaces for the beginner classes.
That's good.
So that's good. But we want a lot more engagement from the professionals, if you can, the henna community. Anyway, in terms of let's move forward a little bit. I'd like to talk about what's your plans for the future.
What's our plan for the future? We got something cooking as well, isn't it?
Collaborating?
Yeah, we're kind of doing a collaboration project.
Tell us.
I think it's good if you see it.
Okay.
It'd be rather than saying it might just kind of, take all the attention. That's the word, isn't it?
Yeah, it's since September, so we're working towards an event. It's called Akib versus Adam. So we're going to pitch our works up against each other.
Okay.
Yeah.
Face off. I'm going to give you a black eye as well.
It's going to be like the 60-minute exhibition.
That's it, gone in 60 minutes, or 5 rounds.
How about yourself, Tom?
I've got some work going up in Glenfield Hospital soon. It was supposed to go up in January, but there's been delays. So that's coming up. And I would like to apply for more open calls, maybe out of the city. I would love to see my work in London. So I think that's the next plan, to go further out of Leicester. And yeah, generally just painting and growing.
How did that link with the hospitals come about? What happened? How did you...
So my father was in Glenfield Hospital in 2019 for a long period, and I could see the benefit of having art. Initially, it was just to remember which floor we were in. That was the marker. If I saw the painting, I knew I was on the right floor. But then as things calmed down, we had time to enjoy the art that was in the hospital. And then afterwards, when we used to go outpatients appointments, both my parents would say, you should get your art up. And I was just doing evening classes. It wasn't like great art, but they seemed really keen to have the work up. And then last year, my father had a fall, and I just thought I really have to push this, because every time we'd been into hospital, that was the conversation. So I started looking into how I could get my work into the hospital. And there is a arts and heritage department in Leicester Hospital. So I emailed them and had my Instagram link and just said, that I gave them the story that my father was in hospital and wanted to see my art in the hospital. We had a meeting at Glenfield Hospital, and she did like my work and agreed to have it up. So then they asked me to choose where I wanted it. And I went into the hospital and chose, there was a garden where we used to sit a lot whilst my dad was in hospital. And it's going to be opposite that garden, the corridor, the main corridor downstairs, inshallah.
Inshallah.
Yeah.
So what is it? Do you have an opening when you have that? Or
I'm
is
not
it just a
sure.
case of
As you know, my father passed away a few weeks ago, so the plan was to have an opening and to have something of an event. But at the moment, I'm not sure because we don't know what it's going to look like. Of course, with the hospital, everything has to go through estates and the official route. And this is the reason why it's taken so long to get it up. But there's lots of empty walls in the hospital that can do with artwork. And I think it's really nice to have artwork in public spaces because not everyone goes into galleries and museums and exhibitions. So it's a nice way to enjoy art. But it will be on my Instagram once we have the dates and a plan. But at the moment, I don't know what it's going to look like.
No, it's good. Obviously, it's the amount of traffic that you get, people coming in and out.
Yeah.
It's such a good noble cause, I guess.
Yeah.
You're giving back to people that actually helped you, or the environment that helped you.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's dedicated to everyone that was part of our journey. And they do great work. So it's dedicated to the paramedics, to the cleaners, those that serve the food, everyone, the porters. So it is a nice way to give back. And I'm really happy that they agreed to take the art. So
Okay.
yeah.
I want to go back a little bit more. Let's talk about your inspiration. What actually was your inspiration? Obviously, you talked about travels and all this sort of stuff. Is it what I'm asking specifically is any artists, any people that you kind of influenced by, or whose work you like?
For me, it's, I don't have generally, I would say, got someone that I really look up to, or someone just, if I like something, for me, it's just like trying to make, or how could I incorporate that kind of technique? Again, going back, for me, it's architecture. That's what started. And for me, I always, when I think of my work, I don't think on small scale, I always see in large scale, how it could be almost a building, or it could be architecture itself. So that, I would say, if I were to have inspiration, I would go to give the architects. Zahra Hadid, I would say she was one of my favorite architects. And her work just kind of pushed boundaries from the curvature and feel like, wow, you don't see architecture like that. So while studying architecture, I should say her work would be the inspiration to what I am today, because I tried to push the boundary of my work by looking at arts. But generally, I don't really have a artist that I say I look up to or anything or work, but it could be anyone's work, your work, your calligraphy, anyone's work. I like, okay, do you know what? That inspires me. That's it. I want to go do something with it.
So it's like a feeling.
It's just a feeling.
Yeah.
It's just nothing to do with, I don't try to have much emotions with it. Just, I like to make it. For me, it's a process, a therapeutic process. It's just for me, like, I enjoy the time. Alhamdulillah, I can't believe it's been almost 10 years to doing this, but I don't regret a day doing it.
It's good.
Yeah.
For me, inspiration is nature. I always like to look at the close-up of flowers, and if I'm cooking, I'm looking at the patterns within vegetables, and then I love Aboriginal art. I'm a huge fan of dots, so and all patterns. So I love textiles. I get a lot of color inspiration from old antique textile pieces, and travel. I love Moroccan tiles, architecture, even their bowls and plates and cups and things like that. So I feel like I can justify buying all these things if I paint them. So that's a big influence.
I think Morocco
for
would be
me.
a good place if you want to start in Islamic art. It's generally it's got broader everything you got from the calligraphy, from the crafts,
Any art, yeah.
and it's got so many.
The colours as
Yeah,
well, are just
so
amazing out there.
It's a
So-
good place. I definitely would recommend if anyone wants to start, just see the art scene there. Go to the fairs in the Medina there and just look at the artists, the crafts, and everything that's going on. It is a place, an inspiration. Definitely would go there.
I wanted to go down a little bit more deeper in terms of like you mentioned about textiles, about how it's inspired you. Did you actually, experience? Did you practice textiles, or was it something that you're trying to replicate in paint form from the very beginning? But it's just inspiration from.
So my mom used to do a lot of embroidery, and she used to draw the pattern out through her own imagination or inspired by something, and then do the embroidery. So I have learnt how to do stitches and things like that. And then I went to India when I was quite young. I'm born in Kenya, so when I went to India, I was just mesmerized by the colors and embroidery and mirror work and things like that. I think that was a huge change in the way I saw color. So I don't use a color wheel as such, but I do get inspiration from things I have around me. You've seen my studio, like I've got so much stuff, and that's usually where I'll get a pattern.
It's quite busy, your studio.
It is.
It's quite busy.
Yeah.
And how about yourself, Akib? I mean, in terms of obviously you started off with architecture. Yeah, it's quite linear. What was the transition from layering? How did you just think about layering
I think
pieces?
it happened by mistake.
Oh, okay.
It literally happened by mistake. I was making one of the screens on one of the windows in Alhambra by 3D modeling, and by mistake I made a 3D model and I just took one copy of the particular model and scaled it down, and I saw this layered effect. And the software I was using, Rhino, is pretty good that I can make into 2D curve outline. Then I just kind of, let me get to the laser cut lab and just cut it out. And I saw this depth. And I was like, okay, this is something different. And that led to the day I discovered that. Throughout the whole time I was in uni, I was more kind of experimenting with that. Every time I'm doing something, I try to lay it art or laid process. I didn't know it was art, I didn't know nothing, but it was just a mistake. And that mistake, alhamdulillah, kind of turned into almost a hobby, a passion, style, and it's a laid art now. So it happened by mistake, man. It wasn't much to it. I didn't really think about it. But I think learning the software, for especially what I do, is a key to save time. Otherwise, if you do digitally, you'll be spending hours and hours and hours and hours trying to just get going to where it'll take to finish off or start process.
I must say, I mean, you two are the most hardworking people. You guys are there all the time putting the graft in, and a lot of, you see the end product, but there is a lot of graft, energy, time that's actually got into getting to that stage. You guys are there from sometimes 6:30, 7 o'clock, 8 o'clock in the morning until quite late. Where has that work ethic come from, or is it something that's just grown organically?
Well, for me, I have deadlines. I've got deadlines. So depending how the past 2.5 years been quite good in terms of I've been working through mostly commissions. So I have to meet the deadline. And for me, the one thing is I'm quite lazy sometimes. So I go very slow. But because I've got deadline, I have to sometimes give in the extra push. Otherwise, I don't get paid. So.
For me, it's just that I love it. I really am enjoying being in the studio, painting, experimenting, and I work on multiple pieces at a time. So it looks like I'm really busy because I'm doing more than one, but I'm just loving it.
Just being aware of the time, we've literally got a few seconds left. If you can just give us your handles, your social media handles.
So for me, I'm on Instagram _thearchist.
Tazim.Hamid on Instagram.
and all good social media?
More or less, all of them. And
Predominantly Instagram.
Instagram mostly,
Yeah,
but I mean,
mostly.
that's, yeah. Anything. Instagram, TikTok, all the same handles anyways.
Yeah. Follow Studio Name as well, because
And of
we're
course,
all on there.
Adam Khalifa.
On that note, this was Islamic Arts and Heritage Program. My name's Adam. Inshallah, hopefully we'll get to